It starts before the food even arrives. It starts at the host stand. The restaurant is loud, a chaotic ecosystem of conversation and clinking glass. The host looks up at you, scans the room, and asks the question you've been bracing for. Just one? In that split second, your heart rate spikes. As you walk to your table, past the laughing couples and the loud groups, you feel the social gaze burning into your back. And the moment you sit down, you do something instinctive. You pull out your phone. You aren't checking a text. You are building a shield. You are engaging in what psychologists call a safety behavior. You are pretending to be busy to prove you aren't lonely. But why? Why does eating a simple meal in public trigger the same biological fight or flight response as being hunted in the wild? You think this is just social anxiety. It isn't. It is a conflict between your evolutionary wiring and your modern identity. We are going to dissect why your brain treats the empty chair as a threat, why you use your phone as a crutch, and how the ability to eat alone is actually the ultimate test of psychological freedom. Watch what you do the moment you sit down. Before you even look at the menu, you place your phone on the table, face up, within millimeter reach. You are likely suffering from the spotlight effect. This is the cognitive bias where we vastly overestimate how much other people are noticing us. Your brain's threat detection system is screaming that the entire room is analyzing your solitude. So you perform. You scroll without reading. You chew quickly. You avoid eye contact with the couple at the next table. You are signaling to the room, I am not lonely, I am just busy. I am important. You are using busyness to avoid the stigma of loneliness. But here is the irony. The more you try to look busy, the more you validate the insecurity you're trying to hide. You are telling your own nervous system that the room is a threat. Why does this happen? Why is it so hard to just be? For 200,000 years of human history, being alone in the open wasn't just awkward, it was lethal. Being separated from the tribe meant you were vulnerable to predators. When you sit alone in a crowded Chipotle or a high-end bistro, your amygdala, the ancient fear center of your brain, fires a low-grade warning signal. It asks, where is the pack? You are exposed. But for many of you, the anxiety isn't the only driver. There is a second, darker reason you might be eating alone. For some, eating alone isn't a failure, it's a drug. If you constantly seek out restaurants alone, not out of necessity, but out of a desperate need to escape, you might be engaging in hyper-independence. Eating with others is cognitively expensive. It requires emotional contagion management. You have to absorb the mood of the person across from you. You have to pace your eating. You have to maintain the flow of conversation. If you're a person with high empathy, or if you grew up in a chaotic household where you had to perform to keep the peace, eating alone becomes the only time you don't have to manage someone else's emotions. You treat the restaurant not as a place of community, but as a refueling station where you can be physically nourished while remaining emotionally starved. You preserve your energy, yes, but you also reinforce a wall that says, I am safest when I am in control. But here is the deepest level, the one most people never talk about. There is a profound difference between loneliness and solitude. The psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott famously wrote about the capacity to be alone. He argued that the ability to be comfortably alone is actually the peak of emotional maturity. If you can sit in a restaurant without your phone, without a book, and just eat, tasting the food, hearing the noise, feeling the chair, you have achieved a high-level psychological state. You have quieted the default mode network, the part of the brain that obsesses over self and status. You have quieted the default mode network, the part of the brain that obsesses over self and status. But most of you don't get there. Most of you engage in social snacking. You are physically present, but digitally tethered. Because here is the uncomfortable truth. The empty chair across from you isn't empty. It's a mirror. If you remove the phone and you remove the book, you're left with the one person you might be trying to avoid. Yourself. If you can't eat a sandwich in silence, you aren't lonely. You are experiencing intolerance of affect. You cannot handle the raw input of your own thoughts without a filter. So how do we fix this? How do you stop seeing the table for one as a deficit? You have to change the metric. The next time you go out, try a radical experiment. Leave the phone in your pocket for the first 5 minutes. Force your brain to overcome the spotlight effect. Prove to your nervous system that you are safe. Shift from being the observed to being the observer. Watch the room. Treat it like theatre. Psychology shows that shifting focus outward lowers cortisol and increases curiosity. And finally, reframe the empty chair. Stop seeing it as a lack of a person. See it as space. Space for your own thoughts. Space to digest not just your food, but your life. Eating alone is the ultimate act of self-friendship. In a world that constantly demands you perform, negotiate, and react, the table for one is a sanctuary. It is a declaration that you're worthy of being taken out, nourished, and treated well, even if you are the only one doing the treating. When you can sit in a crowded room, surrounded by noise, and feel completely at home in your own silence, you haven't just bought yourself a meal. You've bought yourself freedom.